picks for our two-night SummerSlam roll on as the underdogs will finally have their day, and I've got 6 more winners for you next. Make sure to go back and check out my picks for the 6 matches of night 1 of SummerSlam, and I'm also not going to repeat the recap or the SummerSlam history, so make sure to check out that info there too. With only 3 title matches on night 1 of SummerSlam, we've got all 6 matches being title matches on night 2. So let's start with our mid-card titles, and first, the Women's IC title, where Becky Lynch is the champion, but another underdog at plus 135 for 42.55% implied probability, taking on Lyra Valkyria at minus 175 for 63.64%. So why Becky here? Well, we may as well say it again, because she is the man, and she pretty much always wins. And she's only held the title for less than 2 months here, beating Lyra at Money in the Bank, and then she was gifted a win when Lyra took her out in her defense against Bayley. Then, all 3 of them had a show-stealing triple threat match at Evolution, and even though we have 2 of these possibilities in this show, it's not the usual business of WWE to go right back to the prior champion. And that does give Becky the advantage here. And although Bayley's plight began with Becky taking her out, Bayley certainly signaled with glaring lights that she's got to do something to get her mojo back, and so after being quite downtrodden and at a loss for words on Raw, we have to expect a heel turn from Bayley here. So with Lyra making this a no DQ match, she could have dug her own grave, because a heel turning Bayley is more likely than to attack a bright, shining babyface, which of course is exactly what Lyra is, and that will hand Becky the easy win. So while we've seen some twists here in the WWE playbook, Lyra did get the upper hand on Becky on Raw, so it's Becky's turn to get that final say in this final showdown. So why Lyra here? I think something is fishy here, no? Well, reports indicated that this was supposed to be Becky versus Bayley at SummerSlam, so it does seem a little strange to go back to the Lyra well if she's not going to win. And Becky smartly wants to put this feud to bed, so making Lyra unable to challenge her again if she loses. That certainly seems to make conventional wisdom state that this stipulation helps to produce a winner so that the stipulation does not occur. But I think Lyra might be better off moving on or moving up from this title for now, so losing under this stipulation might just be best for business. While Lyra's stock may have taken a step back from her 2-step in those Becky stompers on Monday, she still really improved her stock during this feud, so sure, we could see her going for that Women's World title in the near future. So I think we need a retention here to get these 2 away from each other, and with Bayley's interference on Lyra all but secured, I think Becky is the pick here, and this makes 1 match and 1 underdog pick, so we'll keep it small this time at just a quarter unit bet. So we have a strangely similar situation for the US title, where Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu are both now at a pick'em at minus 120 for 54.55% implied probabilities. So let's start with the champ, and why Sikoa? Well, his reign is actually shorter than Becky's, as he defeated Fatu at Night of Champions just over a month ago, and just had 1 very easy defense against Jimmy Uso at Saturday night's main event. So it stands to reason that he still needs this win to keep some credibility as a champion and the leader of this new MFT group, in which he currently has a 4-on-1 advantage over Fatu. So he also has 1 more card up his sleeve with the possible return of Tama Tonga, so that could make it 5-on-1 against Fatu. And Sikoa's done some pretty great work since he returned, leaning a bit more into that comedy that we all didn't really know that he had, but his 4-11 record still leaves a lot to be desired, so this win would really boost his stock. But why Fatu? Not only have we all been saying that he's a star, WWE has reportedly said that they're positioning Rhea, Breaker, and him as the next top stars. And he's already been given city-specific merch as a way for WWE to show it. And being in a steel cage theoretically helps his cause, because everyone thinks that he should beat Sikoa in a 1-on-1 match with no interference from anyone. And we actually have seen Sikoa inside a steel cage in a fair fight against Cody Rhodes. Of course, he lost that match and then everyone jumped in on Rhodes after the match, But still, this could go the same way. And with a cage match typically being a feud ender instead of the middle match of a feud, it makes sense to get this win back onto Fatu so that the good guy can come out on top. Because if he loses this one, there's not really a more brutal match to take its place to up these stakes even further. I will admit, I rarely pick the side of hot-shotting the titles right back to the prior winner. See Lynch, Becky up above. But I think this is the chance to let everyone see who your next big star really is, so whether he does it alone, or whether he has to go through 3 or 4 other guys, Fatu is our pick, and we'll keep this one small as well, because it could be a 5-on-1 advantage, so we'll make it just a quarter unit bet. And our last mid-card title match is the Men's Intercontinental Championship with Dominic Mysterio at -200 for a 66.67% implied probability, and he's taking on AJ Styles at +150 for 40%. So why Dom here? Well, Liv may not be back for a while, so it is not really time for an everything, everywhere, all at once breakup moment. Holding pattern is good news for Dom, with Liv injured just a month and a half ago, and what is supposed to be a 6-month injury, that is good news for him keeping the title at least for a little while. And Dom quickly had 3 defenses, though admittedly one was just against Octagon Jr., so his injury prevented him from getting in the ring for a month and a half. So perhaps there's just more that they want to do with Dom before taking this title off of him. But why AJ Styles? Well, this match should have been at Night of Champions, and if it were, Dom probably would have been the pick there. But time has let Styles, hilariously, climb further and further in his appeal to go on yet another run with some pretty hilarious comedy skills. So with Styles re-signed for a new 1-year contract extension, he has the time for one more good title run. And should John Cena actually lose his title, wouldn't it be great to see him try to win the IC title for the first time to become a Grand Slam champion, so that instead of Styles beating up Cena, Cena could beat up Styles. And Dom is also going to AAA's Triple Mania for a chance at the Mega Championship, so he may well win that. We're definitely not betting that match. But I don't think that he will be a double champion, so if he might win that title, we gotta get this title off of him before August 16th. So, with all that said, Styles is the pick here, and this is another underdog pick, and we're even going to make this a half unit bet. Up next is our 6-pack TLC match for the WWE Tag Team Championships with the Wyatt 6 as the champions, but not the favorites, yet again at +180 for 35.71% implied probability. The favorites are Andrade and Fenix, they're at +120 for 45.45%. Fraxiom is at +250 for 28.57%, DIY is at +700 for 12.5%, the Street Profits are at +900 for 10%, and the Motor City Machine Guns are at +1100 for 8.33%. So let's quickly take these from longest odds to shortest odds. And so we start with the Motor City Machine Guns. They have the least momentum and pretty much the least chance here. They already had their title shot earlier, so I think we stay away from them for now. Next we have DIY, and they are oddly the ones trying to keep the tag team division together to all be on the same page to take out the Wyatts. And it also helps them that Candice is pretty involved here, so it would make sense to keep this going with the Wyatts to see Nikki finally get a match or two to take on Candice. So I do think they are the best of the long shots here, so feel free to sprinkle here, but not for me today. Next we have Fraxiom, and they were on fire quickly with 4 straight wins, but they lost their title chance and both of their matches since, so they now have no wins in 2.5 matches. And I'm not exactly sure why that happened, but it still would be pretty easy and believable to see them grab those titles here. Next we have the Wyatt 6, and they are not the favorites despite just winning the titles less than a month ago. And it looked like they were losing last week before Nikki yanked the ref out of the ring, and then things broke down from there. So I'm not exactly sure why you'd put the titles on them just to take them off so quickly. So I think they should be able to keep things going with all these teams for quite a while before they eventually lose the titles. And honestly, keeping the Wyatt 6 in the heel corner here doesn't make a lot of sense so far because they really haven't earned being heels. So I think this could be the start of them doing that right here, as Howdy, Rowan, and even Nikki could all wreak some havoc to play the numbers game to keep those titles here. So I think this just makes too much sense to let them retain right now. Andrade and Fenix are the favorites, and that's because they're probably just so darn good. And they really have been the featured team lately, and they even almost got those titles last week. And as long as these two are a thing, they should be able to get their hands on the titles before too much longer. But I'd rather see them do that in a traditional tag after months of everyone trying and failing to beat the Wyatts. So we're going to go with a 4th straight underdog, and even though they are the second favorite here, the Wyatt 6 are still an underdog. But I would not be surprised if 4 of the 6 teams won this one, but I'll give the Wyatts a better than the 33.33% implied probability that these odds represent, so this is at least worth a quarter unit bet. Next we have our Women's World Championship triple threat match, and we've got Naomi as the champion at minus 1500 for 93.75%, and her opponents are Rhea Ripley at plus 400 for 20%, and Io Sky at plus 750 for 11.76%. So why Naomi here? Well, she did just cash in at Evolution and has no title defenses yet, and not even a singles match of any sort. So things are already lined up perfectly for her to win this one and then take on a white hot babyface in Stephanie Valkyria at the Clash in Paris. And we did already have a brief interaction between those two, and they were on opposing sides in the 8 women's tag match on Raw. So quite simply, I think we're good to go here. But why could Rhea Ripley win this one? I am a bit amazed at WWE's patience in keeping the title off of her for now. But we do need to look forward for Rhea because Crown Jewel is in Australia in October, and with shockingly no PLEs in September, the Clash in Paris is the only PLE until then. So the challenger spot in that PLE is already taken by Stephanie, and the other problem is that if a match for the terrible Crown Jewel Championships is actually fought for there, well, that takes away another chance for Rhea to challenge for the title. So it's either she wins it now, or there's no Crown Jewel Championship match because that is a terrible gimmick, or she goes after the women's IC title instead, or I guess she has to settle for a non-title match. And of those possibilities, I suppose that the last option is the most likely one here, but we can't rule out completely that Rhea gets the title here so that she walks into Crown Jewel as the champion. So why Io? Nope, not at all. We absolutely have no chance for Io here, no matter how good her matches are, and she is the best in-ring talent that we've got on the women's side. We simply can't go back to that awful title reign that we just witnessed. So she will win again sometime, I'm sure of it, but it's just not now. And of course, I didn't even mention the traditional wisdom that champions retain in triple threats, and so she does, and Naomi is the pick, and this is a full unit bet. And lastly, in the main event is the undisputed WWE Championship in a street fight between John Cena as the champion, as the underdog at plus 200 for 33.33%, taking on Cody Rhodes at minus 300 for 75%. So why Cena? Well, it feels like a bit of a truncated title reign for Cena if he loses here. And it's almost like they know that the heel run isn't that good, so they just simply have to abort it. And I don't necessarily think that they want to end this heel run until it's good, so they'll be criticized forever if it ends here and there was never really anything great. And it almost feels not fair to say that, as there have been a bunch of good moments after that initial shocking turn. So why can't we just keep it going so that if Cena is going to lose eventually, it won't be Rhodes who gets it done to either make a new star or, yeah, I guess just have Roman Reigns do the job. And oh yeah, Rhodes is also playing Guile in the upcoming Street Fighter movie, which begins filming in August, so one may say that it's a good reason for Rhodes to lose here, since he may need some time off, but hey, it's not like WWE isn't just used to having champions miss some time to do other things like filming movies, right John Cena? So why Cody Rhodes? Well, obviously, he rarely loses, and is he really going to go 0-2 all time against John Cena to wrap this up? Or does the White Knight simply need to ride in to save the day and stop wrestling from being ruined? And if that's going to happen, doing it on your second biggest show of the year, because there's no #1 shows for Cena to wrestle in, well, that does sound pretty boring, but it makes a lot of sense. But my God, let's not have Cody just win this thing cleanly, and thankfully this is a street fight, so these guys can beat the hustle, loyalty, and respect out of each other, and that's exactly what needs to happen until Rhodes at least doesn't hesitate and beats Cena with some title shots to the head and maybe some low blows, and at best, it gives us that full-on heel turn that we've been teasing for a couple weeks now. So who knows, maybe The Rock shows up and Cody's sold his soul after all, because they must do something big, and that is way bigger than what they did at WrestleMania, and at least this time we don't have to deal with Travis Scott. So come on guys, let's do it, let's make the heel turn happen. So Cody Rhodes is the pick, as he can win as a heel, or if he doesn't turn heel and just wins because he's Cody Rhodes. But we are definitely keeping this with just a quarter unit bet. So in our recap, we've got 3 underdogs and a pick'em with Becky Lynch, AJ Styles, the Wyatt Six, and Jacob Fatu. And we've also got Naomi and Cody Rhodes. So remember to never bet more than you can afford to lose, and let's all enjoy a great weekend of wrestling and see a bunch of upsets in night 2. But if you didn't see the picks for night 1, be sure to go right on over here and check those out. And until next time, I am the SportsZu, and this is a podcast that needs a new name.